My name is Konstantin Fedoritz, and we are guests today of Sylven Medyesy, and it's a big pleasure and a privilege, and thank you for having us in your home, in your wonderful library. And I would like to introduce you as a longtime woodworker, very great woodworker. This is one of your pieces, and I love it. A carpenter, a person who still practices the craft, a wonderful mother, and wants to talk to you about certain things. And I would like to start with what actually made you go into woodworking?
Yeah, I didn't have a path towards it, I have to say. Probably one thing that was different about my family was that my parents, who are both ministers, by the way, actually built our house totally from scratch, not with a ton of building experience, but that didn't seem to stop them. So they bought a piece of land and built a hexagon pole barn to practice, and then built an octagon house. So for your first house to not have a single right angle in it, now that I understand that, it's insane, right? But I did grow up like seeing this happen, and that you can create your own spaces, and there's really no limit to that. And if you need to learn how to run electric, you go learn how to run electric. If you need to learn how to do plumbing, you go and learn how to do plumbing. So I think part of that was normalized in my life, but I certainly wasn't headed in that direction. There was nothing about, I was completely expected to go do probably anything but this.
And what was the when did you figure it out that you need to do this? Because nobody wants to do woodworking.
It's true, that was I was looking for what would be something for me, and I had graduated from college with an English degree. I was like, okay. I started taking some graduate classes. I just wasn't that into it. So I had student loans to pay, so I took a carpentry job, and it was wonderful. It was fun, it was interesting, it was very challenging, very physically challenging. I'd never done anything that physical either. And that was the experience that actually shaped me. I worked for a great guy. It was just the two of us. He did everything start to finish. He had a great little shop, and so everything that he did, I did. And he was a fantastic teacher and communicator, and like which is the right fastener for this, what is the right, really specific top to bottom, in and out. And the shop work was so, I guess at that point it had the romantic feeling that people associate with wood shops. I felt that way. And I decided, okay, I just need to kind of let this academic thing go and probably find just a really challenging way to be in a shop. And that led me to actually apprenticing with Hank.
So from learning literature and language, you went to a complete opposite.
Completely different, yeah. Completely different.
And that physical, tactile, that what brought you in.
Yes, and actually, I didn't realize. I mean, I'd always, even as a kid, I was building small engines and repainting BMX bikes. Like there was always some sort of project that I was doing hands on, but I didn't really realize that that's actually something that was an aptitude, and I was pretty good at being able to do hand things. So.
And if we look at you back in high school, who were you in high school?
Never crossed my mind. There are a lot of things I didn't know about myself in high school, so more than just that. It was never presented as an option because girls aren't presented this as an option. So that's why.
But were you a bookish kid? Were you more
No, I was bike riding, played tennis. Every course in school I was in. That was kind of. I worked a lot. I always worked in high school too. So.
What did you do in high school? What did you work in high school?
I cleaned lawnmowers to pay for my mini bike parts. I whatever. I worked in the kitchen.
Very interesting.
Everything. So.
Very interesting. So still hands-on.
Yes, right.
Still
hands-on. And now that I realize my projects were fun and hands-on, I was living while my parents were building our house, middle school and high school, so I was seeing that as a normal part of life. So getting our first house and doing a giant project didn't seem out of scale or out of or unrealistic. Or other friends would come over and be like, "What are you doing? Why would you ever do this?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? This is what you do. You take a house, you got it, and you live in it, and then you rebuild it."
Yeah, there's no service for it. You just do it
Well, if
the
you-
old-fashioned way.
And if you have $0, it's the only way you build equity. So
Yes, yes. So the moving to Hank, how was it in the beginning to get into this? Because Hank has his own way of presenting things,
Yes.
his own way of.
yes, he does, very much so. And again, I come from I think maybe 2 years with Bob, so doing carpentry in the field, the only female in the field doing this. Lots of looks, lots of lumberyard comments, lots of all that, whatever, So walking into Hank's world, because I had never had any experience in carpentry at all, I definitely didn't have any experience in like what Hank's world is, which is, that 1,000 times over, because you're including, design into it. And I had zero background in design, drawing, sketching, proportion. And that was probably the biggest thing for me to realize. We're not just talking about like, can you make the piece, or can you make the piece efficiently, or can you even use a plane, or can you do it even, is the first question. And then can you actually see the difference between, good and bad design, or elevate something aesthetically. So it was such a broadening of not just like, all right, get the physical work done, but I had never I'd never gone to art school. I just didn't have any experience in design and proportion. So
No,
it
it's
was
an
huge.
education of itself.
It was huge.
Just
It was a huge
because
education.
a lot of times we don't understand how much goes into it,
Oh,
because
no clue.
it's
Yeah.
not just the physically.
No.
It's not the aptitude of doing it every
No,
day.
it's not.
It's not just, oh, here's the part that goes here. No, that part has to fit there.
Correct. That's what's so different. It isn't even, or building a kitchen or something where it doesn't have to have a feeling associated with it. It does, but
No,
but
if
there's
it's painted,
a standard
there's less,
form. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yes, it's,
That was one thing I had no idea that I was looking for or needing. And then once I realized the difference, I was so grateful, so lucky to have walked into Hank's shop to actually like fill that curiosity. So.
and you were producing him for him for the long time. You were
Yes,
one
I
of
was
the
in his
longest
shop
ones
for
there.
10 years. The first year I was an apprentice. And then still, even when I left for my own shop, I probably for like the first 2 years, I basically made his pieces. So yeah, hundreds and hundreds of pieces through Hank. So you get the eye for what works, what doesn't, scale for joinery, scale for proportion. Yeah. So.
But out of everybody, when we had the conversation with Hank, out of everyone, he pointed you as the one who realized that profit has to be made right from the beginning.
Yeah. Yes.
What is that something that is coming from your earlier years, from your
Yeah.
childhood or other things? Because it's very difficult even for, I'm sure you weren't even 30 at that point.
Not even close. No.
So it's difficult for a person even older in this profession, because it's kind of, we all have this problem. We love what we do, and sometimes we forget that part of a profit.
Exactly.
So what was the catalyst to have that right in this time?
Well, thankfully, I feel like my father did a really good job of emphasizing savings and equity and that kind of like a bigger picture look at how to handle money. There's two ministers, they made so little money that every decision was so important. Every dollar saved or spent was so important. But that was another good thing about Hank. And well, maybe he did it with me more because I asked more questions about money. Because that's no problem. Don't we need to know? We need to know. But exactly. So it isn't just like, can you make the piece, or can you physically do the work? Can you see and elevate with design? can you afford to keep doing it because you're making some money? Like, these three things are so completely different from each other, and each one of them have to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Odds are low, aren't they? That all three things actually align.
Yes.
That you have the skill to make it, that you have the design sense not to just have it be horrible and somebody wants to buy it, and that you can afford to do it again because you've made the right choices somehow, or been able to, I don't know. So to answer you, what is it exactly? I don't know. I guess I always had a hustle growing up. Not having money makes you hustle. Not having really just having to start from scratch and building things yourself, and having a broader view of what does a lifetime of building look like. Well, it doesn't have to look like stocks and bonds for me. It can look like a way of life, or it can look like a trip, or it can look like lots of different things. It can look like kids doing well. It can, so whatever it means for whoever, seeing a bigger picture. What made it start young? Probably seeing my parents build something from nothing. I just felt like, oh, I can build something from nothing too. So, yeah.
Were both your parents immigrants?
No, actually, my dad's from Hungary and my mom's from Seattle.
Oh, okay.
They met in seminary at University of Chicago.
Oh, okay. So they had a common background. And is the mentality of an immigrant kind of carried through?
That's a great question. Absolutely, yes. My father's belief in the potential, of the American dream, because he was literally that guy.
Mm-hmm.
He came over with like $20, worked in a steel mill, and same thing, and actually made everything from nothing. So yeah, definitely.
No,
Yeah.
God bless his parents.
Yeah.
God bless your parents.
Yeah.
They
No,
really.
I really appreciate that. Yeah. I haven't thought about it enough myself.
We stand on the, yes, it might sound pompous, but we stand on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah. For real.
And
hopefully we can instill something in our kids that gives them the sense of
that's
of
for them
work
to observe too.
and work. Yeah.
Not only us.
They've definitely seen us with nothing. Yeah.
It's not only us. So working with Hank, more of a, let's put it, artistic,
Yeah.
more of it's objects of art, even though they're practical. They're
Yeah.
then you moved to construction, somewhat.
Well, you mean Belcor?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Actually, it some of it ended up being that, but Bill and I were hired specifically to be the woodworkers there. So there was a whole crew of carpenters at Belcourt that did the carpenter-like things, and we were expected to do the outrageously, some of these things, crazy difficult woodworking, which was rebuilding or remaking things that had been done, filling in blanks where things needed to be patched up. Really amazing work, and I'm so grateful to Bill. To Bill Crozier, because he had such a great background in architectural woodworking, which, coming from Hank's world, I had a lot of hand skill and a lot of joinery, but I actually didn't have all the layers of historic. I can get somebody to get her.
So after Hank, you went into somewhat construction, working on Belcourt, working with Bill Crozier.
Yes.
And what was the difference coming from making these artistic pieces, even though they're functional, into the completely different field?
It was completely different, and it was like the masterclass I was looking for in a completely different facet of woodworking. So even Hank says, like, woodworking is this big, and I do this much of it really well. That's my Hank voice, so it's not good. But I felt the same way. Woodworking is this big, and I've been practicing and doing kind of Hank's world for so long. So when Crozier called me and it was like, hey, what do you think about this? I'm like, honestly, this is not my world. I don't really know anything about this. And he's like, I just need somebody who can use a shoulder plane. And I was like, oh, if that's what you need, I can do that. Okay, sure. And that was a journey of learning about historic ways of building, materials, but mostly just the different like profiles and shapes and things that were used. Belcourt was such a great example of that time period of building. You know, William Morris Hunt was the architect for so many of the other great ones there, and in New York. But having to follow the best craftspeople in the world who were pounding these mansions out at an unbelievable pace. You know, like one room was built in France and then shipped over and installed, or the doors were built somewhere else and shipped over and installed. I can't even imagine how, and the level of skill to get this stuff made was off the charts. So Bill's outrageous ability to have real knowledge about this kind of historic world really changed my game, really broadened me from this, you know, to maybe that.
You're being modest right now.
A little bit, but we did so many things that I knew how to do in theory, but I hadn't had to do it in Hank's world. You know, there's something very nice. You know, the shapes are similar, the joinery is similar. You know, they're never the same, but it was a really great education. Finishes, you know, it just a much bigger version of stuff that I had done, and I was able to contribute because there was so much handwork required to make a one-off copy of a carving from the staircase, like just random difficult stuff that it really just you kind of had to do it by hand. You just kind of had to wing it and do it, and it worked. It was a wonderful experience. Steve Torino worked there for a while too. Also, amazingly talented woodworker. You know, and he can make a shaper do anything. I had never used a shaper really. You know, it's like I didn't even know they could do these things.
Yeah, Hank Ward's the shaper is this.
Yeah, that's my shaper. It was such an outrageously interesting, challenging, and I feel something about the quality and the history of these buildings. I mean, I look for it for myself, obviously here too. So I appreciated it so much. I was so lucky to get in there and spend about 4 years with Bill. So.
Well, traditionally, woodworking is not women's profession.
Traditionally, no.
And since it's grueling, it's physical, it's tough, you made it. Why do you think there's not a lot of women in this profession?
That is exactly the question. I know that even me being born in the 70s, like you were asking about the high school, was this even an option? Or, you know, did you ever see yourself doing this? No, because I didn't even know it was on the table as an option for me. Nobody ever said, hey, you know, you could do this, or you could become a fine furniture maker. Well, I didn't even know what that was. So I think I don't think women are presented this because obviously just, you know, stereotypical whatever, but I'm not sure if girls' parents, because they're, you know, at a certain age are ready to open up, you know, their mind to a different way for their little girl. As much as my parents were a model for doing for yourself, learning for yourself, building for yourself, I don't think it ever occurred to them to offer it to me as an option either. So it's not presented as an option. That's the biggest reason. And then if it is not necessarily a simple world to navigate.
Yes, and that's why I wanted to ask you about that too. How is that to be a woman in a construction site? Because that's a predominantly male.
It is an experience that I've had a lot of time in. There's a big difference between a relationship between you and a group of guys on a job site and me working in a shop really closely with Hank or with Bill or something. So I can't compare. They're just different. So of course on the job site there is. I don't even think it matters if a woman is there or not. There's just a level of male.
Yes. Oh, there's certain camaraderie and everything else.
There's certain, you know, competitions. There's certain, whether you're there or not. This is just what's happening. When I was younger, it was more difficult. Well, I also was less equipped to handle, you know, comments. I was less equipped to handle sexism. I was less equipped to handle the assumptions that were going to be made about me about incompetence. So that was partly me, just being young. But the comments were inappropriate. You know, they weren't fair. It wasn't cool. So if a woman were trying and were put into a situation and being made to feel uncomfortable, I could see a very justified reason for saying, yeah, maybe this isn't for me. So it'd be pretty easy to be pushed out if you let that happen. Or you find a way to take what they said and somehow turn it around and make it funny and make them aware of what they just said. Like, there's always a way to twist it around. So you're constantly navigating those experiences. But I just want to say that those were very few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
In general, my experience has been overwhelmingly positive working with men. I feel like once they actually can kind of see me and trust in my ability, we no longer have any feeling other than like, oh, we can actually just be honest with each other now. And I actually think that men tend to be a lot more honest with me in the shop, especially in that kind of relationship,
Mm-hmm.
than with another guy. And there's some sort of comfortableness between, you know, the two of us. And it works. It works out really well. So I don't ever feel there's a gender competition. I don't think they ever have to feel like there's a gender competition. So then we really are just focused on, like, what's the best way to do this thing? And it really works out. I've had
a great way of putting it.
a very positive
Yes.
experience. Aside from the momos that need to say stupid stuff, which, who cares?
No,
Like,
there's always that.
there's always that. And now at this age, I don't think 1 second about that. It doesn't matter at all. But that's not been the case overall. Once you do have to prove yourself, and of course you do have to prove yourself more, like way more. You have to prove yourself way more than if I were a man doing the same job. So, but then it raises your game, I guess, too. So
No.
I have to do more, be more perfect. So I could see that being a challenge for women getting into this too. But basically, I think they're just not even presented with it as an option. That's how I know for myself. So.
Well, it's interesting that you got to where you are, even though your option was not present because you're
Yeah.
coming from a different background
Right.
than your, but still you got to the point where I consider you a very good great craftsman, and
Thank you.
My humble opinion.
No, well,
He considers you a very great craftsman, and his opinion is a lot higher than mine.
well, I've just been really blessed to work with probably some of the best guys around. Period, hands down, on some of the best projects, and that's not luck. That's because I've initiated these relationships and challenges myself too, of course. But I have been able to work with some of the most talented people of our area of my time. I can't believe it. Like, what I've gotten to learn from Hank, what I've gotten to learn from Bill, what I've gotten to learn from Steve, it's just, and it's all filtered somehow into me being there too. It's awesome. Like, how would anybody else get this education? I can't believe it. So.
Oh, yeah, that's those are certainly people to learn from, and yes.
Yeah.
So as far as work,
Mm-hmm.
it's very physical, very hard.
Right.
It is.
It is.
Even when you think about,
It is.
I just doing some shaping and doing
is.
some things. After all day of doing it, your hands do hurt.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So what's the motivation and what's the inspiration where do you get the inspiration to do
Okay.
that?
Well, I always really liked hard physical work. Like, it makes you feel good too.
Mm-hmm.
But early on, I'm not a tiny woman, but there's still a massive difference in the guys that just pick up the whole rafter and like throw it up, and it's just that you can't do it. So I learned very quickly about leverage. Where's the fulcrum spot? Where am I pivoting something from? How am I moving things with barely moving my body just by shifting its own weight around?
Mm-hmm.
So I've really learned how to, because there's just so much material you're handling, so much material, so much weight every single day. I've learned how to move and carry and handle materials, I think, differently, and I see it. I see my male counterparts picking things up differently than I do. They're going to be hurt, and I'll be okay in the end. But every single decision to pick something up is it balanced in my hand? Is it is it cantilever too far? Is my back wacko doing that? So you can never make that mistake. You always have to actually be better at it.
Yeah, work smart.
Yeah,
Not hard.
yeah. So I don't have to be as strong to move the same amount of material because I've worked a lot to be able to get it right. So.
And where is the inspiration to do this every day comes from for you? Because it
It's
should
really
be
fun.
something besides that.
Yeah, it's really satisfying to be able to put this skill to practical use and turn it into real objects, real homes, real people's lives, and that's a great feeling. I still like this job. I still feel called to it. Physically, not as young as I used to be. You're right. Inspiration-wise, it's fun. It's fun to work hard, isn't it?
Yes,
You
it
must
is.
enjoy it too. I mean, this
I
is
do.
this is a lifestyle.
I still do. There's
Yeah.
still something about it, yes.
Yeah, there is. I'm
Yeah.
curious. What's your inspiration to keep doing this?
I just like doing it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. See, it's kind of.
I just like
I
doing it.
just
But
like doing it.
what else? What do you do to take your mind off it? Because occasionally we do need to shut it off.
Yes.
And get our batteries charged from some other place. What do you do?
We have a boat out down on the dock down there. My family takes up probably more energy
Most of it.
than work at this point, or at least right now, or has for quite a block, especially when the girls were young. There was almost no time for work. That was kind of why I stepped away. I closed my shop when we adopted the girls because they were just 2 and 3, and I was home with them every day for actually until I went to Belcourt. I was a stay-at-home mom for many years. So the kids take your mind off it, and we always have our own house projects. Like every house we're in, we're kind of starting from scratch all over again. This one is definitely a big project, so I definitely split what's really complicated in the shop. If I can't get to the solution, I need to put that away, and then I just go and do anything that I can to move something forward, mindless. So after a big job, I dug out the whole greenhouse. Like that's about all I could do mentally, but it still moved something forward. So I find something I can do that moves forward that I don't have to spend one moment of brain space on. That's what I do.
Yeah, I was taught at some point that the change of activity
Yes.
is a good rest.
Yes, it is.
That's how
Yeah.
I kind of been treating it. I just do something else.
Exactly. I just do something that requires zero brain power.
Any books that you like going back to?
I haven't had time. I feel like at some point in my life I will return to reading, but it hasn't happened for a while. I say.
Thank you for being honest.
Life has been pretty busy for a long time now.
I'm sure.
Mostly
with 2 kids,
with
this
the kids.
beautiful property,
Mostly with the
and
kids,
work,
always projects.
and everything else. Yes.
And the shop was a hot mess too. I mean, everything in this property has had to be from scratch, basically from scratch. So it's been
Oh, it's beautiful.
But
you built a beautiful home.
Oh, thank you. But it was beautiful all on its own.
I'm
All
sure
before I got
it
here.
was, but not really. It still requires a
we're
lot
getting-
of work to bring it to this
Yeah,
state
yeah,
and
we're-
to keep it in this state.
We're going to get the most good home feeling that we can create out of it. Yeah, that's what we get to do. That's what my wife knows. So she knows she can have anything. So it's a bit of a problem, isn't it? I'm sure you have the same thing. If you can make anything, then unfortunately there's no limit to what your home can be like. So
Yeah, well, it's so the woodworking is evolving for all of us. How is it changing for you? Are you changing your technique? Are you going with something more practical? Are you going with something more interesting and pretty? What do you do?
good question. It has definitely changed for me. working for Hank. Well, the biggest difference, of course, is getting a paycheck from someone and needing to create your own paycheck. That's really what it comes down to, right? So I have definitely changed my world. I have a couple chisels that are kind of sharp most of the time, not all of them. I have a plane that's kind of sharp, not all of them. I I'm going to say this out loud. I bought a Festool domino.
It works.
I can't believe it, but I don't always use it. Like, so for example, the piece I'm making now, everything visible is big through, real joinery, and then I'll only use it just for steps that are going to make it faster for me, and it doesn't require, a really obvious, big through joint or something.
Yes.
So, yes, I'm definitely mixing things up. I do a lot less hand servicing. I use a sander now. I can't believe it. These sound so silly, right? But coming from Hank's world,
Yes, but
it was all
it's,
hand sanding.
yes.
It was only all joinery, nothing like, well, I mean, I guess we had a biscuit thing, but definitely not a domino. So yes, I have changed. I have found it's okay to go ahead and find a faster way to do it.
Yeah, there's evolution to it.
There is. I have let a lot of like the hyper focused stuff go because I also realize nobody notices it but me. Nobody notices if that thing is absolutely perfect underneath. Nobody. That was kind
I'm
of.
sure it's perfect.
It's not.
I'm
It's
sure.
not anymore.
I'm sure
it's not. I'm letting it go.
Sure
I'm,
it's still
I'm
pristine.
I'm letting it go. So it's good for me.
Do you have a professional dream in woodworking?
Oh, wow. I think I'm in it. I think
Okay.
I'm in my professional dream, which is under the radar, kind of taking jobs that I guess the goal would be take the jobs that I want to take, and not necessarily have to take busy work. That would be a professional dream. But I already feel like I'm pretty close. I'm in a space that I absolutely adore. It provides limitation for like bigger dream because of the size of the space it is, and that's good. I think if I had a huge space, I'd start to think about maybe there are other things to fill up the space with. I just don't want to do that. I want less stuff, not more stuff. So finally having my own shop and not renting a space is huge. Hank was always right about live where you work. I could not be happier. I always knew it, but it's so hard to actualize that, so hard to find a property that it works for. So the compromise of the size of my shop now doesn't matter in the slightest to me. I'm so happy just to have a space that I don't pay overhead on. It's unbelievably freeing. I'm sure you...
I can only imagine.
Exactly. As one who's rented big shops their
Yes.
whole career.
Yes.
Oh, I just don't want that stress anymore.
I can
So
only imagine.
very happy about that. If that has always been a professional goal, which was have my own space. So having that is a massive part of the professional goal. So
Okay. A couple of quick questions. Just rapid questions. A woodworker is someone who...
okay, a woodworker is someone who I think probably really appreciates the material. You've got to actually like and appreciate wood, and not just see it as a sheet of MDF. I think the difference between like an assembler and a woodworker is that it's about the material probably first, and then also I think that I don't care how you do it, but you're taking that material and you're enhancing it. You're whatever process you do to it, you're turning it into something else. So I think that's probably the definition. Has nothing to do with a chop saw. It has nothing to do with a table saw. It could be, a chisel and a log. Like that could be a woodworker too. It's about the material, and it's about turning that material into what you're seeing. So.
And the main task of a woodworker would be...
make a living from it. There's no getting around it, because it's right back to Hank's point. If you cannot make a living, you don't get to do it. You have to. We all have got to make enough money to get through the day. So guide your desire to use the material wood in a way that is sustainable enough for you to keep making a living at it. That's it. Make a living.
And what's your best client?
My best client?
Yes, the type of best client. What's
The type of best client. Yeah. The type of best client sees that they can have anything. They're not necessarily looking at, images on the internet and saying, oh, well, that's what things are. They have a broader mind to say, okay, I kind of like that, but what I really am interested in is something that does this or has this feel. So I'd like someone who sees the potential of truly having custom work. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate when they just trust me. They trust me to listen to what they want, interpret it my way, mm-hmm. and for me to give them the absolute best thing that I can give them, in whatever the limitation usually is price and material. But so absolute and complete trust and a broad and an idea, and not being locked into what everybody sees as furniture or creativity even. Mm-hmm. So that's hard to come by, but they're out there. They really are. I mean, I'm blown away by clients' like readiness, and kind of like it's the challenge of that is so fun. It's such a fun process, and it can be such a fun process for them too. To do all the talking and wood selecting and being excited about it coming, and then this thing comes that they better than they would have imagined, and that's maybe why do we do it? Maybe it's pretty satisfying. Yeah.
I'm sure it is. And one last question: mm-hmm. What is the definition of success for you right now at your time of your life?
Yeah, success is definitely happiness. It's your personal happiness. So for me, it's setting up a life with how you want to live, how you want to spend your day, how you want to, who you want to spend your day with. Having the right wife really helps. It really helps. But happiness is success. Hopefully some sort of competence at this point. I wouldn't want to be in my 50s and not feel some genuine competence at something. That could be anything, but I do feel some competence now. I didn't for a long time. It takes so long to really actually feel some competence. And again, not in everything, but in that sliver, I do feel competence. So that's definitely part of success for me at this age. Building the life we want, general feeling of joy in it, and appreciation, and feeling like you actually have a handle on some stuff by now.
Sylven, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a privilege to know you.
Thank you.
And thank you.
You too
thank
as
you.
well.
Thank you very much.